First things first, I'm going to cut these 2x6s down to the leg length so that they match the 4x4 posts, because we need more legs for the tables. After that, I'm going to head outside with the table saw, and I'm going to rip some of the 2x6s that I have down to 2x4s so that they match the other 2x4s. I'm also going to create the flat edge on some of the other wood that I have. Now we have all the material ready to go. Now I've got 16 legs, which are 2x6s. Over here I've got some 2x4s, some of which used to be 2x6s. These are going to be the additional braces or supports for the table. You can see the 2x2 cutoffs from the 2x6s. Now it's time to install all of this. First thing I'm going to do is just go around and measure out the center of those long spans. So those long spans are just over 8 feet. I do agree there's not enough support there. So I just measured out the center because that's where I'm going to pop in my 2x6 leg. I pop 4 screws into the 2x6 leg to give it a lot of support, and then I'm adding the braces. I'm doing one on the outside, and I'm also doing one on the inside. Now those braces, or their actual name is stringers, I guess, they have to be cut to an exact size, so I'm measuring and cutting each one. So here we go, look at that. We've got 2 legs and 2 stringers for each of the long spans. That should provide enough support for the Lego. Lego's not that heavy. I think that'll do it. It is going to be more than enough. So now I've got to go around and do that 16 times. So first off, I'm going to install all of the legs. Yeah, I think 4 screws will sort of do the trick. Of course, there are other ways that I could do this. Like I could add triangles throughout this whole thing. I honestly think in the end it's going to be strong enough. These 2x6 legs do offer a lot of support, and they're actually helping level it off as well. After those are installed, it's time to go through and add all my stringers. So what I'm actually doing is just measuring down to the exact measurement, cutting them with my miter saw, and then installing them. I'm doing the ones on the right hand side first, and then once those are done, I'm ready to move on to the left side. I'm just sort of measuring them one by one. Marking them and then cutting them and installing them. I decided to not put them in a line. I know I definitely could if I just toenail the screw, but it doesn't really matter, so I'm just like alternating them back and forth. I think it actually looks pretty cool. After that's all taken care of, I go around with my orbital sander and sand some of the joints, just making them nice and flush. Now I can confidently say that the table is quite well supported. What I could do for these larger sections right here is I could add some triangular blocking. Or what I could do is add another beam like I did in the center there. I definitely know how to make the triangular blocks. I just don't know if it's necessary. Like I can make them larger than this one. This is a 9-inch block, but we could do bigger ones. And we could put triangles everywhere. But I mean, this isn't a deck. It's supporting Lego. Even when I put 15 modular buildings right here, it's not going to be that heavy. I feel pretty confident with the stability of it right now. I could literally walk across the entire thing. The only sections that maybe could use more, like I mentioned, are these ones right here. But I feel pretty confident with it now, like it's rock solid. Even these sections, the wood that goes on here comes out an additional foot on either side. So it comes up to about there. And then it comes out to about there. So that wood is supported by the main frames. The smaller sections, which will actually fill this in, are quite narrow. They're only 3.5 base plates wide. They're right there. So there's a very small amount of weight going on those larger sections there. But I could add some triangles. It would involve a lot of cutting and a lot of screwing because that would be 4 per section. So we'd have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. I guess it would be 24 triangles. But I'm pretty confident that it's going to support the weight. The orbital sander actually worked quite well. The battery didn't last at all, but it did take out some of those inconsistencies. So it's nice. Like this, for example, it used to be a little bit higher, so it actually just got rid of that, which is nice because now where there's the connections, the wood will sit rather flat on it, which is really good. So I'm pretty excited about the results of that. Just got to wait for the battery to charge up so I can do some more sanding. Optimally, I would like to use, some people have been talking about them in the comment section. They're like the woodworking tools that scrape the wood off. I could go buy some of those, but the sander seems to be doing a good job, or a belt sander would work really good as well, but I just don't feel like spending $150 on a belt sander that I'll use once or twice. I do want to get a nail gun, but once again, those are $150, and a nail gun would allow me to put shims on the tabletops where we have
well, it allowed me to secure the shims on the tabletops where the wood would be making contact with the actual frame. So if there's a large, like a gap between the two pieces of wood, for example, this one right here, well, then I could put a shim down and actually tack it in place. But rather than spending $150 on a nail gun, I think I'll just go dig through my tool chest or go to Home Depot and buy some really small nails and just tack them in myself. For example, we've got like a pretty big one here. Like that's a pretty big difference there. So I'd probably want to take this shim and just tack it in place. Of course, you could just lay it there, but then when I put the piece of wood on, it'll probably just fall off. So if I could just get some little tack nails, boom, boom, put 2 of them in there and secure that shim in place. The hockey puck levelers, they came in and I was using those in some areas as well. For example, this leg right here had to be raised up a bunch. So I put like 4 of those underneath there. This leg here also had to be raised up a bunch to make it level. And I think there's probably 5 or 6 other legs that are like that as well. Somebody did tell me to use a laser level to try and get this thing perfectly level. All I have is my 4-foot level. Optimally, I would like to use a laser level, but I don't have a laser level, so I'd have to go buy one. And I don't know exactly how I would use a laser level to get this perfectly level, but you can see that it is pretty good. I went around with this big boy right here and put it all over the place and just sort of looked at the little bubble there, and everywhere I went, it actually was like pretty much perfectly level. I was very surprised. These legs, the additional legs that we put in, actually helped level it off a bunch because sometimes I had to force the frame up to put the leg in, and that's why I had to put some of the hockey pucks underneath the 4x4 posts. So yeah, by adding this blocking and also adding the additional legs, it really helped level off the tables as well. I just want to quickly talk about this section again because this is where I'm a little bit concerned there might not be enough support, but then I think about a little bit further as well. The exterior of the tables, so this will be the interior, this will be the exterior, isn't going to be very heavy. Here we're going to have like residential, modular buildings, campgrounds, farm, countryside. All of the heavy stuff, which will be like mountains and massive landscaping, is going to be in the center because my goal is actually to have massive mountains in the center, the downtown on one side, and the countryside on the other side. So then when we have these massive mountains in the middle, well, then we can walk around the city like this and we can see the downtown core with the mountain background or a big rolling green hill background. And these mountains are 4-sided, and then we can come over here and see some more city with, once again, mountains in the background. And then over here, maybe some countryside where we have like the farm, the zoo, all that different stuff, the medieval, everything like that with, once again, the mountains in the background. The mountains being the heavier pieces of Lego, the landscaping being lighter, so I don't think it's a huge concern. But if it is, once again, I can fix the problem by adding triangular blocking or another support. So at this point, I feel really quite confident. Like, well, I don't know if I feel confident because I don't work for Cirque du Soleil, but I feel confident with the with the table frames. Like, also another thing that's going to add more support is the melamine on top, because of course we're going to screw the melamine into place. So that will all sort of pull it together as well and act as a support that sort of squares everything off. So I feel quite confident with this. 360! 360! Yeah, I'm pretty fired up, everybody. I'm really excited. I think that this is good to go. I think we're ready to add the melamine on top. Start screwing that in place. I'm just going to start with one, work my way across, do the centers, start with another one, work my way across, and just sort of go row by row. I'm probably just going to wait for that sander to, for its battery to recharge so I can do a little bit more sanding and just drink a coffee and have some lunch while I wait for that to charge. And I probably will add some more of those hockey puck shims to some of the legs as I go around with my level, because as I put the melamine on top, I'm definitely going to be making sure that everything is level and square and just sort of take it, you know, as it comes. But I'm really excited about that. I think the results of this is is brilliant. I know it's taken a while to get here, but today's the day, everybody. Woohoo!
One thing that I wish I brought and I keep forgetting to bring it is my tool belt. I'm always lugging around all these different tools and screws, and I've got a perfectly good tool belt with a drill holster sitting in my toolbox at home. Why do I keep forgetting to bring that? So I actually did go around with my level up bunch, and I ended up using 50 of those circular shims that I have, so a lot of them are underneath those 4x4 post legs. I'm trying to get this as square as possible. So I'm actually starting on the left side here, making sure that it is like perfectly square with the table frames. And these table tops, of course, are perfect rectangles. So my theory is if the first one is square, well, then they should all be square because they're going to line up perfectly. And I'm actually screwing these ones down into the table frame, and I'm trying to level them off as best I can. Now I actually discovered something. I'm off by a ½ inch from left to right. So I'm actually going to redo it, pop the screws out, move over the left sheet a ¼ inch, and get everything lined up so that it is perfect. That is my goal. I've worked way too hard and come way too far on this project to not try and make it perfect, although that's going to be a very difficult task. Now that I've got the first section done, it's time to fill in the connecting sections, and then you can start to see the pop-up holes forming there. So once again, just want to get these things perfectly square because it's just very important that it's square. And once I get that done, I can start moving some of the larger sheets onto the second frame and try and get those all squared off as well. However, it seems like there might be a small issue. There might be something that's a little bit misaligned.
Working on large tables like this is bizarre. You've got to be so precise if you want to get it perfect. It is so hard. There's no denying that it is a difficult task. I have measured and measured and measured and made sure that everything is square. But for some reason, it's not. Check this out. Now, I'm sorry, this is woodworking, so there's going to be a lot of numbers in this next clip. If you don't like numbers, well, I'm sorry. So this is the table frame and the tabletop. They're supposed to be 8 7/8 inches from the table frame to the edge of the tabletop. When I measure here, you can see that's what it is. It's beauty. And then, in order for it to be square on the frame, it should be the same over here. And when I measure, that's what it is. I made sure of it. And then I also wanted it to be like that on this side over here. In fact, this is the piece that I started with. So I wanted to make sure my first piece was square with the frame because then technically speaking, all of the other pieces should be square with the frame as well. And if I measure off of this side, it's going to be exact as well. So technically you could say that this section here is perfectly square with the frame. It has the same overhang on either side, which is beauty. I made sure that that was perfect because I want this to be perfect. The perfect base plate dimension. I want it to all be square. I just want the base plates to line up with the edge. It's just going to be so cool if that happens. A lot of work to get there though. So now this side here should have a 12-inch or 1 foot overhang off the frame. Okay, so right here, beauty, 1 foot. And then it should be the same on this side. And boom, look at that, 1 foot. Exact. I actually cut these blocks right here to those exact measurements so I could use them as my jig and get it perfectly square. Now the bizarre thing is if this is square here, then you'd think the sheet going next to it with this, the straight edge pressed right up against it, and the following sheets should all be square as well, and they should perfectly line up just like those two sheets did. But when I come to the end over here and I measure off the frame, it is not 1 foot. How in the world is that a thing? My camera just flipped around. I did not mean to do that. Why in the world, that was funny. Why in the world is that a thing? It should be square with the frame. So is the frame not square? Is there an incremental measurement between these little tiny gaps that is turning into a large measurement of 1 inch over here? You know, is that it? Are these cuts not perfectly straight? Are they warped a little bit? Is the frame warped? Why is it not perfectly square based on those measurements? And how do I fix that? Because now that 1 inch carries over onto the other one, and the other one, and the other one, and gets bigger as we go down. So what I could do is just throw all the tops on and see how it is at the end. Maybe at the end, these things are hanging so far off the frame that it's not gonna work. And I would hate to go through and screw them all down and be like, okay, well now I've gotta go undo all the screws and redo it. I've got this section screwed down. The filler pieces in between are not, and then this section is not screwed down either because I discovered this problem. And it's like, hey, well, how is that a thing? So I guess what I'll do is I'll put all of these pieces back up on the tables, do all my measurements again, and just make sure that everything is right. I double, triple, quadruple check that these right here are the right measurements. They should be 12 inches plus 12 inches plus 3.5 base plates. So it's like 59 1/8, I think it is, inches. And I made sure of it. Like I checked a bajillion times for everything. So I don't know what's going on there. It's just like a hair off somewhere. And that is turning into an inch further down the line. It's bizarre. Luckily for me, Stings Bricks is coming here tomorrow, I think. And he was the one who helped me design these tables on SketchUp. So hopefully I'd imagine he's gonna have some experience that can help with this and we can sort of try and figure it out. Now what I could do is just shift everything so that it's, shift it slightly so that it's 1 foot across the top. Then I know it's square with the front and it should be square going to the back. But the issue with that is, if I shift this, well then guess what? It's not gonna be square with the side because if I turn this one at a slight angle to try and fix this 1 inch difference here, well now the just under 9 inches here, the 8 7/8, is gonna be larger over there and larger and larger and larger as we proceed backwards. How in the world is it not square? I am like flabbergasted. I don't understand. I can't wrap my head around it. It's weird. Like, we precisely measured everything and designed it on SketchUp. There's something wrong, clearly. Okay, well, I'm gonna put all the tops on. I should not have wore a long sleeve shirt today. I should have wore a t-shirt. Maybe I'll do the rest topless. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm gonna put the rest of the tops on and just see where we're at by the end of it. And they'll just be loosely fitted so then I can see if, if I can start screwing them down. Maybe it'll correct itself in the end, I hope. Maybe it'll just get worse and then I'll have to figure something out, which sucks because I thought we were right on the finish line. And believe me, I want to be on the finish line. I didn't do this on purpose. But it's just all part of the process, I guess.
Now this is when you can really start to visualize how big this is, and I am like grinning the entire time. And you know what? I'm happy that I'm deciding just to place these loosely because I can just try and get everything square, visualize what it's going to look like before I start planting more screws. But look at the little pop-up holes there, manholes. Those are 3.5 by 3.5 base plates, so they're quite sizable and they're very easy to access. And just look at the size of this table. Oh my gosh, it is massive. I am so happy.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited, everybody. As I was putting those tops on, I was losing my mind. Like, this is insane. I don't even know if the camera shows how large this is. Oh, did I have it at this state before? I can't even remember. I know I had, I think, some of the tops on, but not all of them on. This is wild. Oh my, it is so cool. So for the most part, they are pretty square. I know they're not even at this point back here, But up front here, they're pretty well leveled off. Like I mentioned, I only screwed in the front, or like these ones up here, so I haven't screwed in this one yet, and when I do, it really does take care of the gap, just because you put the shims underneath, whatever it may be, so it becomes pretty easy. And I still have those metal fasteners, so what I could do is just slap a metal fastener right here, put some short screws in it, and that'll sort of hold it up like that. You can get them square, you can get them rectangle, you can get them all sorts of different shapes, so I'll probably use a variety of metal fasteners. Now, I have mentioned in previous videos that the reason I have such a large overhang is because I want to do a subway. So whatever structure I build for the subway has to come off the table frames, and that will, of course, probably act as some sort of support as well. You can see all the legs underneath. That's cool. I'm not a huge fan of the 2x6s. That's why I didn't want to use them, just because they're different. I guess I could have just invested in some more posts, but whatever. It's fine. Yeah, this is just wild. But as I walk around here, you'll notice that it's pretty well square. Maybe like a little bit of difference like that adds up to the huge inconsistency in the end. But as I make my way back around here, we'll grab my tape measure. But for the most part, they're pretty good. And you'll see that there needs to be some major shim work done under here to take care of that gap, but no problem. You just shim it all the way along, just like I did on the far side, and we'll make sure that that gets all fixed up. And this is pretty interesting when I make my way around here and grab this tape measure. Remember, it was, I'm sure I said it enough time, it was 8 7/8, just under 9 inches from the table frame to the edge of the melamine. But when I come back here, look, it's pretty much square, like right, oh, I gotta make sure I hit a frame. Right there, you can see it's just over 9 inches, so not a huge difference, like 2/16 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch. And then here on this frame, once again, just over 9, so not a huge amount. So it's weird that it's square this way, like it is perfectly square. Well, not perfectly, but pretty darn close if you ask me. Like, I'm happy with that. And over here on this side, it is as well. Like, it's the same scenario. So for example, right here, it is, look at that. It's really close. You can see it just made up for the difference on the other side, because there we were slightly over 9, but now we're just under, like it's 8 3/4. So you can see it just shifted that way a bit. And maybe when I start screwing these down, we can actually correct that. But here, look, we're just over 9. So I'm sure once I start to finalize that, I can correct that. But the weird one to me is back here. So back here it's huge. It's supposed to be 12 and it's 14. So it ended up being 2 inches off. Maybe those braces that I added, or the whatever you want to call them, those things supporting the little inlets there are just a smidge too short. Maybe they needed to be a bit longer, but we did see at the front that it was not even. For example, it's not even here either. It's made its way to a 13, and it's a 14 up there. So it's not perfectly square. I might be able to correct some of that when I get around to actually putting the tops on. I'm hoping that I can, but holy crow, look at that. It is just gigantic. I cannot wait to slap the Lego on here. And you know what? In the end, if it is off like that, I don't think it's the end of the world, just because it's only off by 1 inch, which in the grand scheme of things isn't really that big of a deal. I know some of these overhangs might be a little bit large, but what I could do is just go through and, you know, add the brace triangles if I need to. If I see that there's a certain area that's lacking a bit of support, I can go ahead and add more wood and just sort of make it work contingent on where we're at. So I'm pretty confident with that. Geez, you know, I think I could start screwing them down based off the front ones here and just sort of make my way to the back. But what I should ultimately do is try and grab as many base plates as I possibly can to see if I can get the base plates lined up on this thing and then start screwing it down, because that is the most important. I don't care about the tabletops on the frames, like whatever. I care about the base plates. If the base plates are square, then I'm good with this. Like, I don't care about that extra inch. I shouldn't even have told you about it because I'm sure some of you will care, but I care right now, like as I'm creating it, because I want it to be perfect. But it's just one of those things that later on down the road, you'll be like, oh yeah, I was off by that, but it doesn't matter. The base plates are perfectly square. It's fine, right? So yeah, there we go, everybody. The tables are so close. I'm so sorry that I didn't get it done today. So sorry about that. I was thinking that I wanted to. I value a second opinion on trying to get everything aligned, so I will get it finished tomorrow. But there you go. So close, yet so far. Just a ton of shims and a ton of screws and some sanding, and it'll be good to go. Thank you so much for coming on by. I hope you enjoyed this vlog. Please remember to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for some more great stuff coming out in the very near future. Farewell.